Okay, welcome to Prometheus 3 overview. First of all, maybe thanks Matthias, thanks Polar Signals for organizing yet a fantastic PromCon. I'm already looking forward to all the sessions. That's no easy job, so be sure to thank them when you see them. My name is Jan. I've been a long-time Prometheus user. I've actually installed, I think, 1.7 or 1.8 first, and never uninstalled it. And for the past couple of years, I've had the good fortune to actually work with and around Prometheus, and Red Hat actually pays me for the privilege, so that's very nice. Yeah, and today I have the honor to present the good work of a lot of people, not me really, but you know, the Prometheus team. And yeah, we'll have a look at what Prometheus 3 is and what the team has been doing for Prometheus 3. All right, so the plan, bonus points who knows what that subtitle means, but only people who weren't there for that. So let's see. So this is a picture from the Dev Summit, September 23. This was just after PromCon 23. If you don't know what a Dev Summit is, it's where the Prometheus community comes together. It's usually once a month. There's agenda items that can be proposed by anyone. The discussion can be led by anyone, so everybody's welcome to sort of add discussion topics there. And usually these discussions are concluded by a call for consensus, and that's then only for the team members where they decide on what to do with a particular topic. So on this maybe fateful Dev Summit, there were two agreements, these two here. So one is that Prometheus should really become the default choice to store OpenTelemetry metrics. And the second one is kind of a synthesis of several. I just added that here for succinctness, and that's the intention to release Prometheus 3.0 this year. So this sort of plot line of OpenTelemetry compatibility is going to follow us through this talk. I do want to make sure to mention that most, if not all, of these features really stand by themselves, right? They also support OTel compatibility, but they're by no means just motivated purely by that, just so that nobody gets the wrong impression here. A couple more words on why 3.0. There is, you know, we could have just gone with the 2.x releases. Prometheus is a mature software, right? A grown-up software. It's been around for 12 years, almost. It'll be end of November, I think. And 2.0 has been around for almost 7 years now. You know, so some people would say it was just time for a major release. Maybe you agree. There's a lot of big features in the work, big changes coming, so that's always nice to sort of bump the major version for that, to highlight that. It finally gives us the chance to break a few things. If you have been using Prometheus for a while, hopefully you know, or maybe you didn't notice, but Prometheus takes great care to not break things. So if you didn't notice, that's, I guess that worked then. But that means, of course, that some cruft accumulates over time, and after 7 years, it's certainly nice to have the chance to clean that up a little bit. There is new project governance in the works. The second half of the talk is going to mention that a little more in detail, sort of introducing a new governance setup, and it's supposed to be more inclusive, right? So that's always nice if you can use that major release hook line to get people interested in the project for that. And yeah, we thought we had ample time to announce and release Prometheus 3 at a conference. Unfortunately, it's not quite ready today, otherwise we would have released it here. But what we do have is a beta release, and I think I have it up here. So you can see it's a draft release. And we should publish that so you can all get your hands on Prometheus 3 beta. All right. Now I gotta get my presenter view back here. All right. Full screen. Cool. So with that out of the way, download it, play with it, let us know if it works for you, if things should be improved, or maybe it's already pretty good for you, what you're doing with it. So next couple of slides, I'd like to take a quick tour of the major features that are added in Prometheus 3, or are in the works for it at least. This is, of course, not complete and can't be really in-depth. I do take care to highlight talks at this conference here that go into way more detail for a lot of these topics. So yeah, be sure to catch those if you want all the nitty-gritty details. Yeah, as I mentioned, some features are not quite ready yet. I'll mention them here anyway. There's a bunch of stuff that we intend to get in still, but yeah, there is a delay. All right, so let's get started. First, Prometheus gets a new face. There's a new UI. It merged just this Monday, not this morning. Julius has been hard at work for a while, and if you follow him at all on any social media, you probably have seen a couple of screenshots already. And there will be a lightning talk today where Julius will introduce it in a little more detail. So that's all I'm going to say about it today. Then we'll start on the sort of OTel-related topics. I'm not sure if you can get these QR codes. Maybe that's more for the people who catch the recordings. That should link you to the agenda on PromCon.io. All right, so OTel ingestion and thus querying OTel metrics has been part of Prometheus for a while now, since 2.47. It's behind a feature flag. And you still have to compromise a bit, right? It's still a bit cumbersome to use. If you're used to OpenTelemetry, there are no resource attributes yet. Sort of the names have to change. There's no delta temporality. There's not the usual health monitoring that you're used to from Prometheus. But you can push OpenTelemetry metrics to Prometheus. Arve and Jesus have been hard at work to improve that experience. The talk is, I think, today, right after this year, and that introduces all the changes to the ingestion pipeline. It's more performant. There's new ways of handling the resource attributes. They can either be part of the target metrics as labels, or they can be part of a new metric that you can then join into your target metrics. And the one thing that I'm really excited about is some work around a new function in Prometheus that should make merging these info metrics much easier. And if all that works out, then that should look like that. Yeah, so be sure to catch the next slot here for all the details there. Another big issue with OTel is, oh, no, sorry, forgot something. Ganesh and Arva also will talk about the future of metadata storage in Prometheus. I mention that here because there is also the idea that perhaps the resource attributes will find a new home in this new metadata storage and improve the experience overall. So that talk is tomorrow. All right, now we're coming to the character sets. I mentioned that already. Right now, if you ingest OTel metrics into Prometheus, the names will typically change. OTel has a strong preference for dots between sort of the individual metric components, whereas Prometheus today only supports underscores. So if you ingest these dots, they simply get translated to underscores. until 3.0, that is. So Owen will talk, I think, also today, yes, today, about UTF-8 support in Prometheus. That is UTF-8 for label names and metric names, which of course will improve the OpenTelemetry experience massively. And yeah, that's a huge undertaking, as you can imagine. For full OpenTelemetry compatibility, there's still a couple things missing. One is the delta temporality. If you know Prometheus, you know that there is Prometheus does absolute temporality. Yes, absolute, accumulative, sorry. OTel prefers delta temporality, so just pushing the updates of a metric instead of an ever-increasing counter. So there's discussions on Prometheus might be able to support that. Health monitoring, I mentioned that already. With push, it's really hard to actually have an up metric, but there's some discussions to improve that situation as well. So there's still lots to do here, but Prometheus 3 really takes major steps. Okay, remote write. If you've been following the repo, Prometheus remote write 2.0 merged a while ago. Remote write, of course, is the recommended way to export data to other systems. Usually that's recommended if you want to do long-term storage of Prometheus metrics. There's a list of compatible endpoints here just from the website. I don't know if that will need updating with 2.0 or not, but I'm sure Alex and Bartek will talk about that a little bit. This talk is also later today. And yeah, overall, it's a huge update to the remote write protocol. You know, there's efficiency improvements, and there's much better support for a lot of things that have sort of grown in Prometheus that remote write 1 was never really equipped to handle well. There's metadata, there's exemplars, there's native histograms, created timestamps. All these things are now sort of natively implemented in remote write 2.0. So yeah, it's a major step forward. And it also unlocks yet another sort of OTel-related feature. This isn't being worked on at the moment, but Remote Write 2 actually opens the doors for the implementation of a OTel-related export, so Remote Write to OTel, if you will. So yeah, that's a great setup, I think, for the OTel compatibility stuff as well. Next topic, native histograms. I think most people here should know what native histograms are. If not, go check them out. They're awesome. You basically get more for less compared to the old-style histograms. And a ton of work has gone into making native histograms stable. Unfortunately, it won't quite happen for the 3.0 release. There is a blocker that needs solving first. But nevertheless, a ton of work has gone into it. There's out-of-order ingestion, or there will be. Carrie and Fiona will talk about this tomorrow. There's custom bucket storage, there's exemplar support. And of course, that's not just Prometheus, but also a lot of accompanying projects in the ecosystem that need to support native histograms. So a lot of effort went into that part as well. And if you want to know how this looks from the user side, there is a talk by Christian tomorrow. And maybe at some point we'll see more cool stuff like this here. That's a slide that Björn made. Yeah, native histograms. And then, of course, there's a lot of small changes. I already mentioned Prometheus 3 takes the chance to break a couple of things. So there's a query lookback, changes to a left open interval from a left closed interval. That shouldn't impact most people most of the time, but sometimes today in Prometheus 2, you just get this one extra sample that you didn't expect if things perfectly align, and this change will sort of make things a little more predictable. There's a change for regexes in the works. The goal is that the match all regex actually matches new lines. Again, probably not impacting a ton of people, but it is a change that might surprise someone. Then there's a couple of new features. There's a new service discovery manager. There's agent mode that is stable now. So that means there's feature flags that go away and sort of they get their own CLI configuration space. And of course, we drop a bunch of deprecated feature flags that have been no ops for a while, but it does change the CLI interface. So we consider that a breaking change. Right, and if you want to know more about agent mode and how Prometheus operator uses it, be sure to catch that talk here tomorrow in the afternoon. All right, that's a sort of quick skim over the major functionality changes that we expect to be in Prometheus 3. As I said, for the second part, I wanted to talk a little bit about the community outreach and project governance. So I'll start this off by just I collected a couple of quotes from discussions that happened online, just to motivate why we thought this was needed. There was generally sort of the feeling that not a lot new team members were getting added. There wasn't even a clear path to team membership. It's sort of there was an arbitrarily high barrier of entry that nobody was really clear on what to do. That meant that people who were interested in contributing, they open PRs, maybe push design docs. Sometimes just nobody would look at them, partly because there weren't enough team members, but partly because we had a visibility issue there. Some meetings had to get canceled. In the summer, that's usually the case, understandably, but with a small team, sort of the likelihood of having to cancel a meeting because nobody is there, of course, grows. And generally, the feeling was that activity was going down in the community. So fresh off the presses, too, we have a proposal for a new governance model. The idea is that 2 new roles get added. So until now, we had members and maintainers. There's a new role of contributor. And on the other end, sort of, there's a new role of a steering committee that sort of decides some other stuff that's better discussed in smaller circles. Overall, that should raise the barrier of entry and make it more predictable on how to become a community member. Sorry? Lower, yes, sorry. Not raise. Of course, we don't want anyone. So maybe we can have a quick show of hands. Who has ever contributed to Prometheus here? Maybe a third, maybe a little less. Well, in any case, you're now officially contributors. So give yourselves a round of applause. Right. So the formalization of such a process is, of course, by far not the first step. The team has been hard at work basically since PromCon last year to sort of open up the community. There's a lot of sort of soft work that needs to be done, and that has been done. And I want to look at a couple of numbers here to see first if so we'll look at the year sort of preceding September 23 first and try to see if that sort of feeling of the community not growing enough reflects in those numbers. And then we look at the year after September 23 and see if anything changes. So first thing I looked at is the maintainers file. That gets changed when team members get added. And I basically just grabbed the Git log here for a couple of terms that are usually associated with adding people. I'm sure this doesn't catch everyone, every addition here. Sometimes, somebody drops out and somebody gets added in the same commit. So yeah, it's not super precise, but it gives you an idea. And if you look at this, indeed, 22 and 23 did look a little thin in additions. And if we look at the year after this, things seem to be looking up quite a bit. There have been 4 additions already. I think at least one of them added multiple people too. So yeah, things are looking up. Next thing I looked at was the commit contributions per release. So Git short log output that already accumulates based on authors. I looked at sort of the commits that happened between releases. Filtered out a couple of commits, or dependabot commits really. I merged some author identities based on common names and email addresses, because some of the members have, like, I don't know, 7 different personas or so. And I declined on plotting a couple of the Y-Stream releases just because they have very few changes and don't really add anything to those numbers here. So we again look at the year preceding September 23. And there's really 2 things I think I noticed here. First is we have consistently very few individuals who sort of contribute a high amount of changes to a given release. And overall, I think these are not really a lot of numbers, but overall, I think you can see that at least the contributions didn't really grow towards the end there. So if we look at the year after that, things are looking up quite a bit, I think. So we get notably more contributions per release, or just purely based on commits. That's a noticeable bump. And the number of contributors is also noticeably higher. It doesn't reflect super well in the scale here, but there's consistently more individual contributors, and I think that's really a good sign. Right. Oh yeah, and one other thing, especially towards the end here, you can see, and that's, I think, one of the best signs, that there is more and more individuals who contribute larger numbers of commits. And I think that's, as a project, that's really where you want to be, where you have like several people who commit a lot of changes instead of sort of single or 2 individuals who commit, I don't know, half or 2/3 of all commits to a given release. All right, last but not least, I wanted to make some other work a little more visible. So this is data from the CNCF's DevStat server. And this is the number of review commits accumulated monthly. You see the Prometheus releases here as red lines. I think there's a difference between Y-Stream and Z-Stream bumps, so not that important. But yeah, reviews are obviously at least as important as code additions. So I think it's worth talking about what's happening in that space. And again, we can see that there's a handful of individual maybe, or probably less per any given month, who really carry a majority of the review load. And first of all, that's great that these individuals do that, but maybe that's not the healthiest setup for a project in the long term. So again, this is the year preceding September 23. And if we look at the past year, again, we see quite a notable increase in contributions of review commits. And I think towards the end here also, you can see that there's more and more individuals who pick up more and more reviews, which is, I think, a fantastic sign. Yeah, I think I wanted to bring up these reviews here because that's something that's usually not so visible, and even that this year doesn't really give you the full picture, right? It's not just review comments. There's also discussions before that. There's onboarding of new contributors. There's mentoring, answering a lot of questions. So I really wanted to make this work that really carries the project a little more visible. And maybe you join me in a round of applause for all these people who do this hidden work. Okay, thanks a lot. That's all the slides I had. 2 minutes early as well. So if there's any questions, now's the time.
Questions. All right, and I think we're going to soon do some adjustments to the maintainers file, because I think you deserve it. So.
Is this one on? Yeah.
Hello. Quick question about the changes in governance. You mentioned that everybody who contributor is now an official contributor. But what really changes?
Well, I think official recognition. I mean, first of all, this is still a proposal. This has to be voted on, right? So it's not really enforced yet. But Matthias, do you have any?
Yeah, Gautam and I wrote the thing. So I guess the idea is that like everybody who contributes just becomes a contributor, and we have like a clear kind of ladder you can climb. So the next step is becoming a member, and we think that should be way lower entry barrier, as we said. So you can get into the Prometheus org way quicker. You can have the badge on your GitHub organization, etc., on your profile. And the idea behind all of that is such that you can go to your boss, your manager, and say, look, I'm officially a Prometheus org member. I need time to work on this, for example. So it's easier politically to get time to work on Prometheus things, for example. And we'll automate all of this. So we'll get notifications when people are eligible to become members, etc. So we'll want to make this a lot more dynamic. And then becoming a maintainer, we'll see, we have some discussions in the doc around that, but also that should be way easier. And then there isn't going to be such a thing as a team specifically anymore, but all the members are team, and then we just have a steering committee that kind of oversees things that are kind of sensitive, right? So we want to open it up, we want to automate things, we want to make it more inclusive, and we want to break out of the kind of thing we have for the past like 10 years, right? Because I think we need to change. Next question.
Any others? I don't see anyone.
All right, thank you.
Then find Jan later today if you have more questions that you don't want to ask right now. Again, thank you, Jan, for like summarizing all of it.
Yes.